All right, guys, welcome back to Fumble Fever. We are very excited to be really talking football and actually predicting some games this week. SEC has not started yet, but we do have ACC and Big 12
2 more
play.
weeks for that.
Yeah, two more. No, it's next. Well, yeah, 2 more weeks from where we are today. So we are excited to be able to have some actual games and some pretty good games that we're going to talk about and predict for you. We'll also have an upset pick at the end of this episode, so stay tuned for that one. To kick things off, we've got a pretty good ACC game between Syracuse and North Carolina. Dylan, go ahead and take over.
I'm just gonna go ahead and say that North Carolina's gonna win.
Okay.
Pretty big right here. They're
All
gonna flex their muscle and have some interesting facts from
Okay.
last year. They had 4 players reach 4,000 yards, which the only team to do that was Oklahoma in 2018 in the last 10 years. I don't know if you thought that was interesting or not.
Yeah, I did.
And then, and even though they went 7-6 last year,
Mm-hmm.
out of those 6 losses, they only lost by combined 26 points. So
True. All their games were very
very
close.
close, and I see them very solid contender for a playoff this year.
Yeah.
So this game isn't gonna be close.
Yeah, and you know how high I am on North Carolina, and I'll get to that in a moment. I've got a statement for you that you obviously aren't going to agree with. This is why Syracuse will win. This is from College Football News, and their reasoning behind it was because that they had a much better secondary and a much improved O-line. Syracuse isn't going to win. I'll just go ahead and throw that one out there. But if I can hit the brakes on North Carolina just a little bit, as high as mighty as I have had them throughout the entire preseason, and I think they're going to do good this season. Like I said, they're going to come away with a win. I'm not going to be surprised if it's not a closer game than what the experts think. I think just starting off week 1, getting going, everything with the hype that's surrounding Sam Howell, it being his sophomore season, the slump comes into play. I think really just kind of the game 1 jitters for everything. He's been a guy himself that's had ice in his veins all year. Like you said, with the fourth quarter comebacks, with the close games, he's been able to work through those tough games. And I think this is a tougher opponent than what most people are probably giving Cuse credit for. I think they are actually going to be better this year. I think their quarterback, Tommy DeVito, I think he's a good player that didn't get a lot of the yardage that he could have because his O-line was terrible. He found himself on the ground before the play got going. So I think with an improved O-line, that will help. So I agree with this website in the sense that Syracuse makes it a pretty fun game. But overall, I'm going to give North Carolina the win. The talent's just too high, especially with those receivers that they have.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like I said, 4 players reached 1,000 yards, which is very impressive.
I think it's
especially only winning 7 games, but
exactly. I think North Carolina could be a dark horse that people aren't paying enough attention to. We keep saying that, and I think we'll see that. But with the way that I think they'll handle this first game, might not look that way to most people. They're going to continue to overlook North Carolina, and then they're going to sneak by some teams. So we'll see how that goes. But overall, close game, maybe touchdown, pull away at the fourth quarter.
Oh, okay. So you got it that close for a while.
I do have it that close for a good majority of that game. I think it's going to be one of the closest games that we actually watch this weekend.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would go on a limb and write that down personally.
Okay.
So moving on to our next slate, another game that I'm really excited for is Duke versus Notre Dame.
This is another blowout. I see.
Okay.
Notre Dame, all the way.
Okay, fine.
Because Duke, they're gonna be pretty much in the cellar the whole season. One of the worst ACC teams, I think.
Okay. We're a little bit different. Again, another game that I think is going to be closer.
One of the worst. I didn't say the worst.
Well, I know. You said one of the. I probably have them still probably closer to the middle of the pack, lower of the pack. I have Duke, but I'm excited for this game overall for multiple reasons. Number one, we've got
football.
Well, yes, obviously, because it's football. But number one with Notre Dame, we've obviously got them for their first time ever in a conference. Those of you that don't know, of course, they have joined the ACC for this year. Maybe this year only. We'll see how the pandemic goes. We'll see how all that. So we're going to get to see that open up right away with conference play. The last time Duke was in Notre Dame in 2016, Duke escaped with a win, 38-35. So they're going to be hoping to redo that. Of course, last year Notre Dame killed Duke. It was like 38-3, something like that. But I'm also excited to see transfer quarterback Chase Brice from Clemson. He is officially been named the starter. He will be starting against Notre Dame. It's a huge task to ask from him week one. Of course, but I think he's going to help improve that Duke offense. And I think a lot of people also excited for Ian Book, his senior season.
I feel like he's been there forever.
It does feel like he's been there for
just
forever.
Like
Since as long as I've known you, I thought we've been watching Ian Book at Notre Dame. But a lot of people think that he's going to do some great things there. I'm not completely sold on Ian Book. I actually would make a pretty bold prediction and say that he's actually the fourth best quarterback in the ACC.
Oh, you think so?
I think so because
I would like to agree with you.
You think so? Because
I see him more as not mediocre, but just beyond mediocre. You know what I mean?
Just good enough to get the job done against the teams that he should beat, but not good enough to beat the teams that they have a little more trouble with, such as possibly Clemson later on down the road. So
spoiler, they're not going to beat them.
I think it'll be a good. That's Clemson's best chance to lose. I'll say is all I'm going to say for that. But back to this game with Ian Book not being as good as I think he's just a little slightly overrated. And so all that coming into play, I think Duke's not just going to fall over. I mean, Duke's going to be improved. I love Coach Cutcliffe. I think he always gets his guys ready. And he's said that he's excited for this season because he said throughout fall camp that this looks like a good bunch. So I think Duke puts up another fight, a pretty good fight for Notre Dame, and it's a little bit closer than the experts think.
Okay.
Moving down the line to a game that I'm not sure will be as close, but we'll see how you feel. We've got Georgia Tech. They'll be taking on Florida State.
I feel like it's going to be pretty close, at least until the fourth quarter.
Okay.
But I got Florida State pulling away in the fourth. This
is a game. We always find a way to differ somehow, even if we're picking the same teams. I don't think this one will be close.
Yeah,
I think it'll be close for a little bit, but I think Florida State pulls away in the third quarter or so. Georgia Tech is predicted to finish dead last in the ACC. And for those of you, just let me reiterate that. Dead last in the ACC, Georgia Tech is where they're expected to fall. That's bad.
That's real bad.
That's real bad. Jeff Collins, I don't really think was an excellent hire there. I think they're taking way too long to try and transition out of their offense.
This is second year, right?
And it says it's the second year, but I still think they're taking way too long to get rid of that option.
You
should have just cut ties last year, and I get the personnel, but still.
Because you got to completely redo your whole roster if you did that.
Right.
Because who was the coach before him? I forgot his name.
Paul Johnson.
Yeah, Paul Johnson. He recruited everybody for the triple option. It's completely different from pretty much any offense in the country right now that you can.
And it takes time, understandably, but if you watch some of their games throughout the entire season last year, they didn't even look like they ever even tried to pass. And I understand they had guys that couldn't pass, but I mean, they wasn't even trying little screen passes, little quick slants, or anything like that. I mean, get your guys. Even if the quarterback is terrible and can't aim, at least let the receivers run the routes because you're not going to win the game anyways. You got to get these guys acquainted with running the routes. If you're going to go some hurry up, then do some of that. Start practicing in game what you're planning on doing the next season because they weren't going to win any of those games, like I said. So with that factor and the fact that I think Florida State's a much better team than what they were last year.
Even their offensive line, you think they're improved?
I mean, that still could be a bit of a stumbling block, but I've heard that they're going to be
3 years ago, it's probably one of the worst offensive lines I've ever seen in my life.
Well, they've had 3 years to get where they need to be, right?
Yeah, I'm not even joking.
No, I know. I
remember?
know. Of course. And
I think they were the team that were blocking each other that one play, I think.
They were, yeah. I'll never forget that. But that is part of the reason that James Blackman has struggled so much on top of the fact
I actually like him, too.
He's a decent quarterback that has just had he's struggled because of the fact that he's had 3 different coaches. And even in high school in his senior year, he got a new coach at that point in time. So every year he's had to learn a new system. And now he's going to learn another new system with Mike Norvell. But Mike Norvell, I think, is one of those types of coaches that can come in and immediately start turning a program around. You've seen it done with other schools. Some of these coaches headed to Power 5 conferences, and they completely turn the program around, or at least turn it back to where they need to be. This is a great coach hire. I'm excited to see what he's going to do, and I'm glad that Florida State got the opportunity to start with a team like Georgia Tech to get their foot in the ground and start running and working their way back up towards the top of the ladder of the ACC, which is where people are used to seeing them be, and which is really where the ACC wants Florida State to be, because the ACC as a whole is better when Florida State's better.
Yeah, they pretty much need them.
Yeah.
Because if you take away Florida State, you pretty much got North Carolina, Clemson, and probably Virginia Tech as the top 3.
I mean, I would throw it, you said North Carolina, but I would throw in maybe Miami, I think, with King now at the helm. Some other teams that Louisville.
I forgot about Louisville.
Yeah, Louisville was expected to do
pretty good,
fairly decent this season. So there's other teams that could compete, but Florida State's got to get up there. They were predicted 7th, it's right in the middle, right in the dead center. So they're doing better, and I think it's going to be a better Florida State overall.
Okay.
Got 2 more games for you. This next one, and I'll give it up to coronavirus for me to say this, because I mean, welcome to 2020. I guess Clemson and Wake Forest is College Game Day. Clemson is a 33-point favorite for College Game Day, but how do you see that? Is there
really not much to say?
Info? Yeah,
there's not really much to say. Clemson all the way.
I think we can agree on this one. I think this was a pretty easy pick for most people. I mean, I was literally watching a pre-game conference with head coach Clawson. His name slipped my mind there for a second. With head coach Clawson with Wake Forest, who literally said that he was talking about in practice and spring, fall, and all that. He said we've tackled, but not nearly as much as we normally do. Because
so that's gonna make it even worse.
Yeah, so they haven't even really been tackling because of the coronavirus and different things. They haven't even had full-on practices coming into this. So we got a Wake Forest team that's not even tackling. Good luck with all the athletes that's on the opposing side of the field. Yeah, good luck bringing ETN down, people like that.
200 yards right there.
Yeah, and then Clemson, of course, even with the fact that Justin Ross injured for the rest of the season, T. Higgins moved on to the NFL, they've still got receivers on the outside with who they call Frank the Tank, and Ngata. His name's kind of hard to pronounce, but Ngata, who will take up the outsides, and then they got a veteran guy still there with Amari Rogers, who will be playing the slot. So Trevor Lawrence still no problems finding receivers to throw to. The O-line's reloaded. I mean, everywhere it's reloaded. The depth is insane. So I can't see any other way that this isn't a complete blowout. Hopefully, our final game that we have coming up
should be the best game.
Should be supposed to be, according to what do you call it, the spread.
Yeah, the spread.
The spread. That's the closest game that we should have. We've got University of Louisiana Raging Cajuns taking on Iowa State. How are you feeling in this one?
I got Iowa State.
Okay.
In a very close one. I'll probably see Iowa State pulling ahead by a field goal very late.
Yeah.
But I got some interesting facts about Louisiana.
Okay.
Elijah Mitchell and Trey Regis. and sorry if I pronounce that wrong, but they combined for more than 4,000 yards or rushing yards in 2 seasons, and they both of them had 55 touchdowns, and within those 2 years, which is pretty impressive, I think. Very impressive.
I think so. That's
so it kind of shows you that they're very run heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And then Levi Lewis, he's their quarterback. He threw for 3,000 yards and had 26 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. So that's really good.
That is good.
And they got most of their defensive players coming back too. So that should add on to how and they got most of their defensive players coming back, so it should add on to how good of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And then some of those notes are basically the same notes that I have on Louisiana, except for your interesting facts. I didn't know the numbers were that high. That is pretty wild. But that's what I've got too. It's a very dynamic run duo. They're very run heavy, as you said, and the fact that they're a veteran team is going to come into play for them. That's what's going to make this game close. I still like Iowa State over Louisiana Lafayette, but for those that don't watch maybe some of the smaller conferences a lot, Louisiana Lafayette is a team that is always a tough outing. Whoever happens to draw them in the Power Five, they're always a tough outing, and I like to watch them play.
I think they beat LSU or they beat Alabama one year.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't LSU, it was Alabama.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so never overlook Louisiana Lafayette, which I'm sure Iowa State is not doing. But one of the main reasons that I like Iowa State in this one is because they have a draft prospect and quarterback, a guy that a lot of people think could even be an early Heisman candidate. That's how good he is. And as you said, Brock Purdy, who's phenomenal guy who's really going to start climbing the boards throughout the rest of this season.
Is he a senior or is he a junior? Do you know?
Not sure 100%, but it's another guy that feels like he's been there for a while. We've been talking about Purdy a lot, and it seems like he consistently gets better each year. The only major thing for me, if I was going to pull the trigger and say that there would be an upset, it would be because of the fact that Iowa State's schedule, now that it's all Big Ten outside of this first game, it gets really rough for them with Oklahoma, with Texas, with Oklahoma State, teams like that they have to play coming up. If they're overlooking Louisiana Lafayette, which we just said is a bad idea, they could creep up on them. Yeah. Hopefully they won't. I don't think they won't. I think their head coach is one of the better head coaches across the nation. So I think he'll have his guys ready. But we'll see. I think it should be a pretty fun one that people need to tune into if you weren't already. That's one game you need to take notice of.
Definitely.
Yeah. So as we did last season, Dylan, we finally get a chance to do some upset picks. We're gonna both give one here in a moment. I know it's a little bit harder this week because
it's super hard.
Limited schedule, but I think we both ended up with a couple of good ones. I'm gonna let you start.
I got Arkansas State over Kansas State, which Kansas State is a 10-point favorite. But I watched them play against Memphis last week. And I pretty much like what I saw from them. Put up a good fight against Memphis. And so I just got a good feeling that they're going to beat Kansas State.
I feel that one. I could 100% agree with that. And I think as we started, we said there's pretty much two possibilities for upsets this week. You got one. I'm going to give you the other one. It's Coastal Carolina. They're taking on Kansas. This is the second year in a row that they're playing Kansas. I think last year Kansas came to them, did they not?
Yes.
It did. So Coastal Carolina going that out west, even with the coronavirus, they were able to get approved for that. And I think the Chanticleers have a pretty good runner on a guy that's on the runner to watch list for the Sun Belt by the name of Adrian Wildschut. That is a pretty tough guy. He runs through the numbers and can pick up speed fairly quickly. I like watching him play, and I think a lot of people might get a chance to write his number down and get him a little bit more exposure, especially in this week one when there's not as many games, where there's more people watching. And I think especially just because of the fact that, hey, it's Kansas. Because of Carolina could end up with a W. So that's my best shot, I would say, for an upset pick if I wasn't going with Arkansas State. To keep tuning in for more predictions throughout the season. We'll obviously always do our Saturday slate games. We'll
Definitely.
continue with more fun games as well. Moving forward, you just got to keep following us on YouTube at Fumble Fever for all that.
And then hit the subscribe button and hit the like and leave a comment.
Thanks.
Thank you.